Every time you decide not to take action or not to speak up, you are compounding the self-doubt that you have, and you are not getting the visibility or recognition that you deserve. So this keeps on growing for you, and you keep losing on the success that you deserve. So remember three things: take action and then celebrate the small wins. Activate your brain's reward system. Every time there's a small win, just celebrate it somehow. And then make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are hyping you and reflecting on your brilliance rather than things that you're not able to do. I think too many dreams die a quiet death just because we think it wasn't possible, and because we chose to believe someone else and their voice rather than our own capability and potential.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Career Changers. Today, we are happy to welcome Tanushree Tiwari, certified leadership coach, founder of Epic Influence Leadership. For years, she was the go-to leader, delivering results, mentoring talent, and holding it all together. But beneath the surface, she rested with a quiet truth. She was coaching others to rise, while her own inner critic, the ever present gremlin, kept her playing small. The turning point became her catalyst. Today, Tanu is a certified professional coach, ownership leadership master practitioner, and Stanford Lead Business Program graduate with over 18 years of international corporate experience. Her mission? To eliminate workplace misery caused by poor leadership and build a world full of emotionally intelligent and inspiring leaders who create meaningful impact. Today, we will discuss her career journey and how you can silence your inner critic. Tano, we are so thrilled to have you here. Welcome to the Career Changers.
Thank you so much for having me, Elisa. It's a pleasure.
So let's start with your background. Where did you grow up and what was your dream job when you were a child?
So I grew up in India, and growing up, I really wanted to do something to make an impact. That was the common thread. And I wanted to be a journalist. So I grew up to study journalism, and then I did my master's in journalism as well. And I thought I was going to change the world with my pen and my thoughts and everything. As I was completing my postgrad, I came across Google and marketing. And even before I had finished my postgrad, I had done a few internships in journalism, but before I finished my postgrad, I got a job at Google, and that was my first career change. And I pivoted to marketing, and there's never been looking back since then. I've continued my journey into the field of digital marketing as well as marketing data analytics. And it's been over 18 years now. I never went back to journalism, but I found another way to find my purpose of making an impact.
And so you had an incredible career journey and also that took you around the world. How did living in diverse environments shape your perspective on work and life?
Yeah, I did grow up in India, but then I moved to the UK. I studied there, and then I lived and worked there for 6 years, and that's where I met you as well. And I was in London for quite a bit, and then moved to the US. I got married to my wonderful husband, moved to New York, lived and worked there, and now I live in California for the last almost 5 years now. And one thing I realized living in different countries and working in different countries is that leadership can be cultural. So it's not a universal concept. And one thing that resonates with a certain culture could be completely a no-no in another culture. So living in different international environments and working in different countries really helped me become a leader that listens and gives the benefit of the doubt to the other person because you never know what's going on in someone's life and where they're coming from. Being a good listener is one of the most important leadership qualities I feel that I inculcated from being in diverse environment.
You had this long career, but do you remember the turning point, the exact moment when you started to think, I want to be a coach?
So there wasn't this one incident or one turning point, but I feel like it's been something in the making for a while now. When I moved to California, I had a very different experience when it came to the work environment. And New York was intense. Working there, it was like cutthroat, a lot of hustle, and giving your sweat and blood. And then when I moved to California, I had all these inspiring people around me. Silicon Valley is very different from being in any other place. And any person you turn to, even if you run into someone in a coffee shop, there's some inspiring, interesting story behind who they are. And at some point, I started thinking, where am I going? What am I doing? What's next for me? So that's when I did the lead business program from Stanford, and that really opened up the aperture for me. I started really thinking about finding my purpose very intentionally. And being in the firm that I work at, I had a lot of support in terms of how they expose you to different kind of inclusion networks and things like that. So I got closer to the person I was being here in California and the place I work at. And that really made me think about what I want to do next. And I sat down and started writing, journaling. What is it that's my core? What are the qualities that I have? Because somewhere I read that if you really want to make a career out of something, think about your talents and best qualities and see how you could work with them, not against them. And the way the system works is you follow a template. You, whatever culture you come from, for example, people in India are very focused on engineering careers and doctor, engineer, and all those technical fields as well. But for me, it has been really a path of finding myself. One thing that kept coming back to me was throughout my career, I've been a mentor. I've always mentored and coached people. I've always helped people. And that's when I feel the most alive. Whenever I'm helping someone, I just feel like one with the universe. And when that realization came to me, I was like, you know what? I need to find a way to make this a part of my day to day, coaching people and doing something about helping them. And yeah, I started speaking to people around me, found that my firm had a coaching center of excellence and met some coaches there. And the rest is history. Once I was exposed to this world of coaching and how this can become a part of you, there was no looking back. I signed up for this coaching program from one of the most prestigious academies called IPEC. And I went through this entire year of self transformation to become a coach. And in the process, obviously, coached a lot of people as well, learned a lot of things, developed my own tools. And now I'm here.
Wow, this is a wonderful journey and really be able to connect with what make us feel alive, I think is really important. But during your journey, you had to face your own inner critic. So let's talk about understanding this part of us. Where does the inner critic come from and why is it so persistent in our thoughts?
So, the origin of inner critic, there was an evolutionary reason. So, thousands of years ago, when humans were still evolving, this inner critic was important because if you made a mistake or if you were not liked by your tribe, you weren't just kicked out of the tribe, you would have ended up in a situation where you would be killed because tribes protected each other and being alone was not an option at that point. So the inner critic would come up and remind you, hey, this is what happened last time. Don't do it again or you'll be kicked out. So it's like this software that your brain developed to protect you. The thing is that in today's civilized world, it does not make sense to continue holding on to that software. You need to update it. And it starts with your childhood. So there's two ways that the inner critic really manifests. In childhood, when we have our parents or teachers or other caregivers, any authority figure, they say things to you unknowingly, unintentionally, that you tend to imbibe in yourself. So things like, you're too loud, you won't be liked, you're too much, or if you don't do this, you're not going to get that. So you tend to make these mental models for yourself. And as you grow up, these become the voice in your head. And whenever there's a situation which is a high stakes situation, this inner critic comes up and puts like a blanket rule from whatever rules you created in childhood. It says, you know what? If you're going to speak up or if you're going to do something which you got rejected for in the past, you're going to get rejected again. Stop. Don't do it. And it manifests with different kinds of voices. It'll say you're not good enough to stand up for yourself. You're not good enough to say this. You're not smart enough. You're not intelligent enough. And the same thing happens from societal conditioning as well. So if, let's say, there's media, there's social media, there's authority figures at work. Sometimes, if you see, women get a lot of self-critic coming up for them compared to men because there's societal norms like we are expected to be soft, but also told by society or workplace that you have to be more assertive. But if you are more assertive, sometimes you get called bitchy or bossy, and
Mhm.
that's the truth. So there's a lot of these things that are happening in our place of work or in media that shapes our thinking and shapes our inner critic voice. So there's a reason why it's there. It's there to protect you, but letting it lead you is where the problem comes.
Mhm.
And
And
when the inner critic shows up, it shows up not just with the thoughts that it comes up with in your head, but also you feel it physically, which is why you're not able to take action in that moment.
okay, so how do you feel it physically?
So for a lot of people, it could be throat drying up,
Mm.
or your voice goes down, the volume of your voice, like when you speak up. For some people, they feel like this fluttering in their chest. And in extreme cases, it also comes up as feeling of nausea, pain in the stomach, increased bowel movement as well. So there's a lot of different ways that it shows up. So it's very important to understand how it shows up for you. And once you get into the habit of identifying, it gets very easy to know, okay, you know what, now this is coming up. It's going to stop me from taking action and say, hey, don't do this. This is dangerous.
And that's really interesting. And I think maybe if we focus or we listen to our physical reaction, is where also we can understand the difference between self-reflection and destructive self-criticism. Because I believe if we are self-reflecting, maybe we are more rational. What do you think?
Yeah, so there is some very powerful research that's done by IPEC. That's the coaching institute I graduated from. So there's this concept of energy. So this is all energy-based coaching. It's developed by Dr. Bruce T. Schneider, and he talks about how we are all made up of anabolic and catabolic energy. So just so you understand better, anabolic energy, think of it as a building up force. And catabolic energy is a breaking down force. So anabolic energy would be something like you breathing in air and the oxygen supplied by blood to the different organs of your body and that keeping you alive and your organs thriving. And the catabolic energy would be something that's a breaking down force. So think of digestive system. Body creates acid, breaks down the food. But both these energy types are very important for our body to function. And within these energy types, there's different levels of energy. So there's 7 levels. Level 1 is the energy of apathy and fear and victim energy. Level 2 is the energy of anger and conflict. Level 3 is the energy of moving on and responsibility. Level 4 is the energy of service and compassion, and so on. Level 5, 6, 7 are more energies of the win win and joy as well as complete objectivity. So as you go up in the energy levels, it gets more anabolic. Level one and two are more catabolic energy types. So when you talk about healthy self-reflection, that happens at more of a level three energy of responsibility, taking responsibility. So the thought in your head would be like, okay, this happened. Now, what can I learn from this? How can I move on from here? But when it comes to destructive self-criticism, that's more happening at level one or two energy, where you're feeling so much self-judgment, so much anger also sometimes on yourself. And you're saying things like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I did this. You're kicking yourself. So there is a big difference in the two. And now that you know that there's these two different types of energy level that comes with it, healthy self reflection is something that will move you forward in your life, because there will always be situations that won't go according to plan. But the destructive self criticism is like it says in the name, it is destructive for you. It does not help you move forward, and it can be detrimental to what you're trying to achieve.
And how does the language we use about ourselves shape our self-belief?
Yeah, I have this thing called a spectrum of how a gremlin can show up, your inner critic. Sometimes it's even called your inner saboteur, because the way your gremlin talks to you is how much of this level one energy you feel. You must have or noticed or even experienced sometimes it's very light the way your gremlin talks to you. I don't know if I should be doing this. And sometimes it's like very intense where you're saying, I can't believe this. I'm such an idiot. You're never going to be able to do this. Don't even try. So it's a spectrum that it operates on. It goes from very destructive language to light and doubtful kind of language.
And so, in your experience, what are some practical exercises or technique that we can use to quiet our inner critic, especially when we are in high pressure situations?
Yeah, I have this framework that I call NICE. And the easy way to remember it is whenever your gremlin shows up, be nice to yourself. So it's NICE. N is for notice. So whenever, your inner critic shows up, like I said, there's physical signs and there's also the language it uses, the thoughts that are coming to your mind. So notice what is happening is an N, and then I is for identify. So once you've noticed what the gremlin is saying to you, then you identify, okay, this is my gremlin, and you name it. So I go through this exercise with my clients in coaching where I help them name their gremlin, identify and name it. So we go through this exercise of identifying how it shows up physically for them and what it means to them. For example, a gremlin could be saying, you're not smart enough, don't speak up. And the client's having a lot of trouble speaking up in meetings or standing up for themselves. So the gremlin message is you're not smart enough. We go through this exercise of writing it down, understanding where it's coming from, and then naming the gremlin is so important because it separates that gremlin from your own identity. Gremlin is not you, and gives you back that control, saying that I know this exists in my psyche, in my system, but this is not me. I can control it outside of me. So once you name, it becomes real. My gremlin, for example, is called Tango because always doing this dance with my gremlin. And naming is the part of the identify in the framework. Then the third one is contain. We do this visualization exercise next with the client where we try to understand what the gremlin looks like for them. So, like I said, my gremlin's like this big brother who I'm trying to do this dance with always. But one of the ways that we do this is imagining that the gremlin's sitting with you in the car and it's been driving. You are the passenger, but now you're ready to take the wheel back. So you contain, C is for contain, you contain the gremlin in this container that you decide for it. So you decide, gremlin, you're going to be the passenger, I'm going to be the driver. So
It's a
you
little bit
can
like a wild child.
exactly wild child, big brother, yeah, whatever it shows up for you as. So you put it in the passenger seat, you say, you can come for the ride, but I am driving. So you contain it. And then E is for empower. And this is where a little bit of work comes in. So you gotta notice, and we do a lot of journaling and writing things down whenever the gremlin shows up. We keep a log with the clients. And for example, someone's gremlin's always saying, "Ah, this is not ready enough to share yet." So they have the perfectionist gremlin showing up. They constantly want to perfect something before they show. And because of that, they end up not showing their work and not getting any recognition for it. So whenever that shows up, you say something different to it. You reframe and you empower it with truth. So the gremlin's just trying to blanket apply, remember, based on whatever fears you have of rejection. But you empower it with a thought that if it says, this work is not ready to share, you say, it's not ready yet, but I am working on it.
Mm.
Tomorrow I'm going to do XYZ, get it to a certain point, and I will share it. So there are different ways to do the reframing exercise, and this is where sometimes clients get a little bit stuck because it can be positive reassurance and saying positive things to you sometimes doesn't come easily, which is where I give them tools sometimes like just add the word yet at the end of the sentence, or think about your niece or your best friend that comes to you with this issue and says, this is what's going on, and I can't believe I'm doing this. And what would you say to them?
Mm.
Talk to yourself the same way, talk to your gremlin the same way, reframe it for your gremlin.
And so you mentioned earlier on that there was a time where the inner critic served as a protective force, protecting us from death. But what about now? Does it have a useful purpose, or we should always aim to silence it completely?
Yeah, so the inner critic never goes away. Once it's built in your mental model, it's there, and it's there for a reason. And a lot of people out there are talking about hate your inner saboteur and you gotta banish it, you gotta using a lot of those combative words. But I like to do it differently. I like to remind people that this is something that was created by your own system, by your own mind, inner psyche for a reason. And instead of hating it, embrace it and work with it. You can really make your inner critic work for you rather than work against you. And which is why taking back the wheel and being on the driver's seat is extremely important. And you can literally summon it and use it whenever you want once you really master that.
And is there a way to actually strengthen our self-confidence and weaken on the other side the inner critic's influence?
Yeah, absolutely. So self-confidence is not talent or a quality. It's something that comes like you're exercising a muscle. The more the action you take, the more success, the more confidence grows, right? And yes, there are times where you won't have success, but the probability of having more success is by increasing the amount of action you take. And if you were to think of all the big celebrities or even dignitaries or people that are famous, they all talk about having this inner critic. So it's not like it's just happening to common people like us. You take Michelle Obama, for example, she talks about her inner critic in her book, Becoming, and how she always felt when she was at Princeton that she doesn't belong here. But there's one common thread between all these famous people whenever they talk about their inner critic is the thing they do is they know the inner critic exists. Despite the inner critic saying what it's saying to them, they take one action step. So do it anyway. Just take that one baby step, take that one action. And that's the common thread. And that's how you can really do something about it and break that pattern of the inner critic.
Mhm. And I think action can take us away from overthinking, and then maybe that's the place where the inner critic like to be, or like us to be.
Absolutely.
Time is going really fast, and we are nearly reaching the end of this episode, but we have still a few more questions. First of all, is there a way to turn the inner critic into an ally rather than an adversary?
Absolutely, yes. So I would say, of course, working with a coach is, if you're really struggling with it, is something that'll be very helpful. But if you're thinking about working on it and being really aware about it just by yourself, remember that you're paying a tax every time you're letting the gremlin win. So I call it the gremlin tax. So every time you decide not to take action or not to speak up, you are compounding the self-doubt that you have, and you are not getting the visibility or recognition that you deserve. So this keeps on growing for you, and you keep losing on the success that you deserve. So remember three things: take action anyway. So, yes, your gremlin's going to say things it's going to say to you. You say, like I say to my gremlin, thank you, Tango. I hear you, but I got this. Take action and then celebrate the small wins. So, activate your brain's reward system. Every time there's a small win, just celebrate it somehow. Tell your friend, tell your partner, do something little, gift yourself something. And then it's very important to have a hype squad around you. The kind of people you surround yourself with is also very important in how much power your inner critic is getting. If you have friends around you that are constantly putting you down, or your partner or whoever's in your orbit that's important to you, they can also feed this gremlin a lot. So make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are hyping you and reflecting on your brilliance rather than things that you're not able to do.
For listeners who feel stuck in a cycle of self-criticism, what's the first small step they can take today?
So the first step is, I would say, N for notice and the NICE framework. N is so important to understand where your inner critic is coming from and how it shows up for you. And really, is it your throat tightening up or the physical manifestation of it? Becoming aware, come up with a name for it, and start talking to your inner critic. So use the NICE framework is the first step, I would say, and keep a log of whenever it comes up and take that one step anyway. That is something that's going to put you on the other side of it.
It's a great way to start. And so now really are at the end, and we have the last question that we ask to all of our guests. So you gave lots of advice to our listeners, but if you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say to your younger self?
I think too many dreams die a quiet death just because we think it wasn't possible, and because we chose to believe someone else and their voice rather than our own capability and potential. So the advice I would give myself is stop self-rejecting even before you've put yourself out there.
Thank you, Tano, so much for sharing your incredible journey and your insights about the inner critic with us today.
Thank you for having me, Elisa. It was such a pleasure to be on your podcast.
And the same for me to have you here. And a last message for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave a review if you enjoyed this episode, and tune in next week for a new inspirational episode of the Career Changers. Thank you.